my name is Antonia, and I am an urban development researcher specializing in transportation and land use planning. And I was also a researcher at the New Normal program in 2019. So today I'm going to present my exploration of how urban congestion through the lens of Mexico City reveals this really interesting entanglement of different layers of history and current urbanization trends, and how these are confronted with the infrastructure and the ecology. So in 1325, the Aztecs settled on a shallow island at over 2,000 meters above sea level in the middle of a lake formed within an ancient volcanic crater. They founded their capital called TENOCHTITLAN. Surrounded by lakes and mountain, the site offered a very strategic natural setting that allowed them to develop into a highly sophisticated urban system. Fast forward until today, and Tenochtitlan has morphed into modern-day Mexico City, which is one of the largest urban agglomerations in the world. Its metropolitan area has a population of over 20 million inhabitants, and this will only continue to grow. It is also a voracious consumer of resources, requiring over 6.4 billion liters of water every day and expelling 30 kilograms of waste. This places a tremendous amount of pressure on the city's ecology, especially since Tenochtitlan was never really meant to assimilate the weight of such a large city. Over the past few decades, Mexico City has witnessed an accelerated and uncontrolled urban expansion. This urban expansion has been characterized by this trend of out-migration from Mexico City, where most of the urban services are located, out to the periphery or the state of Mexico. Sprawl is very toxic to a city's environment because the more expansive a city, the higher its energy consumption and its emissions. Not to mention that through this trend of urban expansion, the urban sphere is also encroaching into very valuable agriculture, conservation, and forest that is located on the periphery. The problem is that this pattern of urban sprawl has not been commensurate with the delivery of urban services. So as a result, this means that the commuting area of Mexico City has been growing, and this means that it increases the number of trips made every day, the distance traveled, the dependency on motorized vehicles. Today, Mexico City is one of the most congested cities in the world. With 34.5 million daily trips every day, it has a congestion rate of 52%, which means that people spend 52% more time on traffic congestion, in traffic, than they should. In parallel, Mexico City's underground system is the second most congested metro system in the world, just after New Delhi. And sometimes you can even see up to 6 people per square meter during peak hours. Congestion is not only resulting in significant economic losses, not to mention that it makes traveling a huge headache and very difficult throughout the city, but it has a tremendously detrimental impact on the city's fragile environment. When we're faced with congestions, the approach often consists in increasing road capacity as a means to alleviate traffic and allow for cars and people to flow freely. In Mexico City, this has been taken literally to new levels as the authorities have been polemically approving plans to build second-floor highways. This phenomenon is known as induced traffic because actually expanding the road infrastructure and putting more roads on the street will only exacerbate traffic over time, so it actually makes the problem worse. So not only is this counterproductive, but it also diverts a lot of resources that could have been used, for example, to invest in the public transit infrastructure. But on top of that, building these highways is adding a tremendous amount of pressure on its already fragile grounds. It cannot be more obvious the fact if this uncontrollable growth and this disconnect from the ecology cannot be made more obvious is the fact that the city is actually sinking at a rate of 30 centimeters per year. This is due for a number of reasons. Of course, the fact that Mexico City sits on the bottom of a lake made out of porous clay bed, but also because of the pressures of urbanization depleting the aquifer. Mexico City is also plagued with extremely severe flooding, water crisis, as well as a severe air pollution crisis, A lot of this is actually exacerbated because Mexico City sits within a valley, so its geomorphological structure actually traps this air pollution inside of it. So this all points to the fact that Mexico City has been the growth that it has experienced has been largely decoupled from its natural environment and neglected its actual carrying capacity. So when you're faced with these types of problems in an urban city, fostering densities have been revered as the antidote to urban sprawl and to car-oriented urbanism, as we can see in the case of Mexico City. Yet, densities is not just about packing people and infrastructure into tight spaces. It's about creating compact, diverse, mixed-use spaces that would actually reduce the need to travel, contain the urban expansion, and also slow down this rate of environmental degradation. It also makes cities safer and increases the competitiveness of the city. A projection scenario by the Centro Mario Molina in Mexico City made a little projection of what Mexico City could be like, what would be the impact of encouraging densifications, but also making improvements in the land use and actually expanding the public transportation network. So this is a very good case highlighting that densifications are a great way to confront a number of urban problems. So in this scenario, it would achieve reductions of 78% in the expected land consumption, achieve savings of 18 billion in infrastructure costs and 92 million in savings of energy. And additionally, it would reduce the kilometers traveled by private transportation by 23%, and finally reduce a significant amount of emissions per year. So this shows that densification measures really result in a more efficient use of resources. And these are the resources that we need as urbanites, as people living in cities, for our survival and for our well-being. But then it also would leave room to preserve spaces on the planet that could allow other ecosystems and habitats to thrive. So by looking at Mexico City, it becomes very clear that its pattern of growth largely neglected the negative externalities onto its natural system. If we can draw lessons here from the case of Mexico City by looking at its congestions, it really is that about the need to reframe our urban imaginary and to realign human activity to become more closely interlinked with the biophysical carrying capacity on which cities are based. In essence, the future of a well-planned city should not rely on building more in order to accommodate more, but actually to densify and restructure and provide better management. So thank you very much.